Hey, good morning and happy new year to all of you out in the wonderful world of the internet and the YouTubes. This is Drawing with Michael. I am, of course, Michael. Today we're going to be doing some warm-up drawings of my children's book character, Frank. I'm currently working on a children's book called Frank and Beans. I will be posting artwork and process and some of those things pertaining to this particular project. Hope you guys will enjoy that. Something a little bit new for the new year. And eventually I'll have the illustration work that will go towards a Kickstarter program. And of course I'll share that with you guys whenever the time is right. Hopefully you guys had a great New Year's celebration. Mine was okay. I spent it with friends and ate lots of food and had a fantastic time up here in the mountains. So what I'm going to show you guys here in just a second are some of the character designs that I've had for Frank and Beans over the past year. I've really gone in and just tried to explore some of the character traits of these two individuals as I work through the story, as I work through who they are in the context of what I want to get across in this story. So hopefully you guys will enjoy the process. I'll do a little bit of talking here and there, but there will be some time lapse as well. So hopefully you guys will enjoy. Okay, so I'm recording you guys on my iPhone. I've adjusted my video recording setup, so hopefully this is a little bit better for you guys. I know some of you didn't like the catty corner view, and I will change things up here and there, but just for this particular project, I'm testing this view out with, of course, my iPhone. So these are some of the character designs I've done for this project. Of course, you guys saw me draw some of these concepts that show my exploration into shape, form, whether I was going to be wearing anything, and these were some of the pose sheets, that I did. And of course, as I move through these, you guys will see the other character, Beans, but this was an early concept that I had for Frank, really kind of showcasing his, desire to explore. And this is one of the ones that I had with a hat. I decided, I haven't really decided if he's going to have this hat or not. He might have a different type of hat, whether it's a toque or a toboggan, a ball cap or something to cover his noggin. I really like that concept. It gives a different aspect to the character. And also we have, his little exploration bag. I've changed that to a backpack. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to keep it a backpack or not. Probably. It might even evolve as I move through the character designs. This one was a little bit too panda-like, I think. Even though I like the character design, it just didn't really gel with me. But I do like the overall illustration, and it does have that character attitude of just, seeing the things that a lot of people don't see. This, of course, we're going to stay on Frank for right now. I didn't put these in order. So here's Frank again. I've added a stick, and this is one that came after the one I just saw. Again, this one was a little bit too human-like, anthropomorphic. I do want him to be anthropomorphic, but this one, again, is just, this arm is just too human-like, and the hat, and I do like the calmness of Frank. Frank actually is an ex-Russian bear that was in the circus, so he has a little bit of perspective on entertainment and the nightlife and whatnot, and now he's out and about kind of exploring. Okay, so then we'll move on. What do we got here in this stack? Okay, that's kind of the extent. Also, recently I've really gotten into Frank because, he's kind of the basis of the story. And again, I haven't really nailed down the complete story yet. Still working on that aspect. Here is a piece that I did traditionally, and then I moved it over to the iPad and did it in Procreate. This kind of shows, occasionally, once Frank gets comfortable, he really, starts exploring and enjoying his environment. Typically, he's very reserved, and then I moved on. As you see, I've got some other character designs I've done for Frank, and I was exploring face shape. and whatnot, and different eyes and simplification and how I was going to animate him. Of course, we've gotten into Beans, which, you know, Beans is kind of like the cosplayer. He dresses up, he really gets into the character, and he's a Louisiana alligator. You know, he lived in New Orleans, and, you know, he's got that aspect of him. You know, the old Creole, that Creole style. And then we move over to, gosh, as you see, I've got a lot of stuff I've done. Oops, I didn't want to show that. Okay, so now we get into a little bit more of a introspection with Frank, and this is more of a traditional style. You know, I kind of explored Frank as a, you know, a real traditional looking bear, not really caricatured. So I really enjoyed doing this piece. It really helped me understand and explore a little bit more about, you know, Frank as a character. And, you know, of course, right here I have his hat, and he's got his little butterfly that kind of is in a lot of his illustrations, just to kind of show that calmness. And I really liked exploring the you know, the minutia of you know, who he is and what he establishes and what he means, and also working in the program was a lot of fun. You know, and then we get to a piece that I'm currently working on. Again, you know, I've changed his character design slightly. I'm really not quite there, and we've introduced this character, little guy right here. His name's Mr. Hootsburg. Hootsburg is kind of like the Greek chorus, and kind of explains, you know, the story arc about Frank and how he meets Beans and narrates it. And this kind of is that moment where you have that lazy day when he's just gotten out of the circus, and he's kind of understanding, gosh, there was a great big world out there after all. And then, of course, you have this, you know, this character right here that's holding a phone. And I haven't really established exactly how I'm going to interject the whole technology thing, because, you know, you have one individual who, you know, was in the nightlife and in the entertainment industry, and he was really in that technology, and everything's moving really fast, and he's kind of separated himself out. And then you have, you know, technology, which everybody sticks their face in technology. So I kind of had a really stark contrast between these two. He's looking at nature and his world around him, whereas this guy right here, he's just looking at his phone. So I wanted to kind of show that, you know, there is a great big world out here, and eventually you can create friends and have friends, and not just have them on your phones. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I've got 50,000 friends or 1 million friends, but in actuality, they have no friends. They just have followers. So that's kind of the whole context of the story. You know, there is a great big world about friendship and exploration and understanding, you know, and cultivating that knowledge of our world and just living. Whereas, you know, you have certain individuals that really just stick their entire world. It's like a dichotomy of worlds. You have the real world, and then you have the virtual world. So that's kind of where that whole concept came from. You know, of course, I've got, I've got tons of stuff, you know, where I've explored Beans, because Beans, you know, again, he has the hat. I think I'm going to keep the hat on him. And, you know, this was just a really quick doodle. He's kind of the free spirit. You know, he likes to dress up in cosplay, and you have different adventures and moments whenever he dresses up as a pirate. You know, he's the captain of a pirate ship, and that's, you know, a lot of fun. And occasionally, you know, I explored a little bit Beans. You know, maybe he could have been the, you know, the protagonist of the story, and maybe he was going to be the one that was kind of reflecting, but it just didn't gel for me. I wanted the alligator with his dynamic movement and, you know, the real colorfulness and dressing up, and I kind of moved in that direction for him. So that's what I was doing on the little iPad. So as we look at some of the traditional work, you know, we have, you know, during the winter time, I was kind of experimenting with having Beans dress up. You know, maybe he has a seasonal item or something, and then, you know, we get into different pose things that I wanted him to explore, and really exploring the different shapes and the dynamic shapes, right? And at one point in time, I actually had I had beans, you know, with his hat. And also, you know, maybe he had a pet. You know, he brought a pet, you know, coming from Louisiana Bayou. Possums are real prevalent down there. And maybe he had a possum. That was, you know, just, again, an exploration of character. And here he is, again, you know, kind of that free spirit, always has a smile on his face, you know, just having fun. And that's kind of my whole moniker with this whole project, is just having fun. And then we get into a little bit of the peripheral characters, you know, Mr. Hootsburg. So we started out with Mr. Hootsburg. You know, we had him kind of as a traditional owl, and then I've kind of anthropomorphized him just slightly. Of course, Mr. Hootsburg has to have a pair of glasses, and at one point I gave him a monocle, which was a lot of fun. I experimented with different glasses shapes, different body shapes. Maybe he's really long, maybe he was abbreviated a little bit, maybe it's a more traditional style, and he's got these really flared out eyebrows, you know. And then eventually I kind of have him with the squared, you know, the squared glasses, and maybe with a tie. And all these things are, you know, experimentations in the context of what I'm trying to establish in the story. You know, typically, you know, you would have a large amount of time that you would be able to spend on this, but since I'm a professional illustrator, I don't really have a ton of time to do, you know, all this work. But now that, you know, I'm not going to be teaching at the college anymore, you know, they went into a different direction. So I will not be teaching at the college illustration and photography anymore. So I'll have some more time to really dedicate to my personal project. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to toy around with kind of an adventurer pose of Frank. Maybe he'll have, because these are just simple, you know, poses to establish gesture and weight and body shape. And so what I'm going to do is I'll use these as kind of my style guides, and I'll put these on the periphery here, and I'm going to put you guys on time lapse just to speed things up, and so this video isn't, you know, an hour and a half long. Yesterday I did something a little bit different. I live streamed a digital drawing, and unfortunately I got interrupted numerous times, so I'm gonna have to figure out a really good time to be able to do that in the future. So hopefully that'll pan out. But I'm gonna put you guys on time lapse for the character designs. We're working on white paper today, Bristol board. I don't typically like working on Bristol board, but just for speed and the fact that I'm going to be working really fast, I'm not going to be working on the tone paper today. And just so you guys know, I got some new markers. These are really, I call them cheapies, just because you see the price, $30, and you're like, that's not cheap, which it's really not. But, you know, whenever you compare them to something like Copic markers, which I have a huge collection, you know, Copics are $10 a piece. So this would be $60 as opposed to $30. And I haven't really done a lot of stuff with Master Touch. Master Touch, I believe, is Hobby Lobby, their proprietary brand. So we're going to try them out. I've got a myriad of markers, guys. I've got Winsor & Newton markers. I've got Copic markers. You know, I've got Prisma Premier markers. I've got Prisma, you know, standard markers. I've got these Spectra markers, which are pretty cool, you know. And then I've got these right here. These are Artist Loft. This is Michael's art store, premier brand, the proprietary brand. And these Box of Suck markers right here. And I say Box of Suck because they're completely useless, right? They're blending markers, and the chameleon. They're pretty expensive too, so I'm gonna have to use these up and then throw these in the trash, because honestly, I don't see the reason behind these. And then of course we've got larger markers like this, Faber-Castell big artists markers as well. So we're gonna be utilizing some of those today on white paper, and I'll be drawing with a Prisma pencil, call erase. And then I got one of these. This is called a Color Tex. I guess it's the comparative Generals. Generals is a brand, so it's the comparative item to the call erase pencil. I'll tell you right now, I've used these pencils. They're very soft and they wear out very quickly. And they just feel completely different. This is a very smooth composited material, whereas this is a little bit rougher. And it's a little bit darker, which is nice, but they don't last half as long as the Prismas. I'm sorry, the color erase pencils. So anyway, we're going to put you guys on time-lapse and possibly do a narration over it after I'm completely done. I haven't decided yet. So enjoy the process of drawing Frank. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is just a really quick voiceover of my process of thought as I do a really quick story illustration for my children's book. So I'm just, I want this particular character to be adventurous but also reserved and very observant. So I wanted to put him in a Arctic sort of environment. So as I go through, I put in, my base shapes and I start working out, the items and elements that, make him who he is. And of course, I don't have his straw hat on because I decided, recently to kind of reserve that for my Beans character. Frank is a Russian bear. And, I've already kind of worked out his voice of how he's going to act, react, and he's kind of philosopher, but also he's had a lot of life experience. So he draws from that, that life experience of being around in the entertainment industry and whatnot. And he's cautious, but also occasionally, just because he's got an association with Beans, as the story progresses and they meet, and Beans really brings out that life in him that he's was very grizzled before they met. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as this really quick time lapse, working in red pencil, of course. Just a really quick sketch, and then I'm going to explain here in just a second of the next steps. So okay, so I've landed on a final kind of overview sketch of what I was trying to accomplish. So it's basically Frank in the frozen tundra. I'll probably add a few things once I drag it into digital environment. I'll be doing a Procreate illustration for this, similar to the other illustrations that I'm working on. Just because, I want to keep it in one environment, start out traditionally. I'll take a photograph of it with my iPad. Voila, iPad, and I'll drag it into Procreate. And as you see, let me see here, go back. As you see here, what I'll end up doing is, I've got all my layers here. I'll add a paper texture to it. And what that'll do is it'll add a kind of a traditional feel to the piece overall. And if you look back at my other piece that I did, let's go back here. Where is it? Papers. This piece right here, right? So I've got a nice paper texture in here as well. And I can turn that, I can turn them on and off at will. And you can just see the underlying illustration, right? It kind of gives you an idea of what I was looking for. And then I put a layer up top. Oops, cancel. I put a layer up top, an overlay layer to kind of bring out all the highlights, and then I toned it, give it a specific hue to kind of warm everything up. So that's what I'm basically doing today. I just wanted to show you guys the process of creating a character study. This is basically a character study, and I haven't started storyboarding the work yet, just because storyboarding takes a little bit of time for me. I'm not really, quote unquote, a storyboard artist. I have done a lot of storyboards. You would think I could be. But what I do is I get the, I get the manuscript done first, and then move on to the storyboarding process. And then once I get that done, I assemble the book. I'll have rough thumbs for the cover done for the back, and I'll get everything done before I move on to the final illustration process. But since I really haven't landed on character designs yet for either Frank or Beans, I'm still exploring. I'm really close, guys. I'm really close to nailing down these character designs, just because I've really committed in 2020 to getting this book finished. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the process and the time lapse of me drawing this character. This is going to be a beautiful illustration. I thought about having some environmentals and having some snow, right? You know, go this way. This is kind of the way I'm feeling, because I've got these nice lines, these gestural lines in the background, and he's looking this direction, so he's kind of looking into the wind. So I'm going to have, you know, maybe I'll tilt this slightly to the right to have that wind, you know, again, to accentuate. Now, the way I've designed this composition is pretty simple. You know, I've got these nice curving arcs to re-accentuate the direction that he's pointed. Again, I've got this going that direction. I've got these kind of going over his head to kind of frame him to have your eye go to the left. You know, these simple items in the composition really help whenever you're looking at it. You know, as a person that doesn't, you know, look at art a lot, you wonder, you know, why you're looking at certain things in the illustration. It's because they're designed that way. It's kind of, you know, I told that to my students. I said, you have control of how your illustration reads. You have control over the direction the viewer's eye goes. You have control over the emotion that you know, that they may have. And as I work through this, as I figure out, you know, what other items as an explorer he may need, maybe I'll have a compass right here. You know, maybe he keeps his compass in here. You know, he's got his backpack on. And then I chose to give him pants. Again, kind of just a design decision. And then I wanted to give him mittens. You know, bears have fur, so it doesn't really make any sense for him to have anything on. But I thought that, you know, as I move and progress through the character illustration, that I can make it more interesting in the items, you know, that I have. And he's got a little lamp right here, you know, a windproof lamp. So anyway, thank you guys for visiting today. Thank you. Like and subscribe and share. Trying to grow the channel. 2020, I want to be a big year. As I progress through, you know, understanding how YouTube works and how, you know, where this channel is going to go. Of course, you've probably heard that from a lot of YouTubers recently. And it's one of those deals where you look at, you know, where you are. You want to grow, obviously. You want to make it better, and that's kind of where I am. I want to make this channel bigger. I want to make it better. So thank you guys for visiting, and we'll see you soon. Stay tuned for this one. I'll be posting it on social media and see what happens as I keep looking at this illustration. There's little things that I want to change. I'll be posting the final of this on social media, and this will be part of the Kickstarter package whenever I go and submit it to get funded. So anyway, thank you guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
La 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 la